everybody. It's Every Day with H and K.
What's happening?
And we are here just bringing you guys a little love.
Love, joy, peace, and happiness.
That's right. So we are actually continuing a series that we started, which was the hardest thing or biggest obstacle in a marriage. We got some feedback, which was great, and we've kind of been hitting each one of those. So we're going to continue. And this point that somebody suggested, I don't know, is called truly forgiving yourself in marriage, even though your spouse or partner already has, like, you still are dealing with unforgiveness for yourself. So,
Go ahead.
Start?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna dig in here.
Dig in that thing.
All
man.
right,
Get into it.
I think the first thing that I wanted to mention was the difference between guilt and shame. And I think that sometimes those two can kind of bleed in together. So you kind of want to make sure that, realizing that guilt serves a purpose and shame doesn't serve a purpose. So with guilt, you tend to understand. I'm going to be looking at my notes that I took, or that things that I wrote down. So with guilt, you tend to understand exactly what you did wrong, why you made the mistake, and how you can repair the situation. Now, with shame, you feel like you're kind of like, don't have a way out. You feel undeserving. You feel like you're not worthy of that person's forgiveness. So you really want to have the distinction of, feel guilty, which is totally normal for that moment, but not letting that turn into shame. Anything you want to add on that part?
Yeah, I think when we're talking about that guilt and shame, I think the key thing is that person has already forgiven. Your spouse has already forgiven you.
Yeah.
So now you've now created something in your own head space, and you sat there and you felt the guiltiness of doing it, but now you're at a point where you're punishing yourself.
Right.
And that's where the shame comes in. And that, even when you talk about shame, when you talk about biblically, that's now condemnation. And the word already talks about it. There's no condemnation for those who belong to Jesus Christ. So you don't need to be, if your spouse has forgiven you, if you've asked for forgiveness, God has forgiven you, and now you are sitting in your own headspace to say, I am punishing yourself. And that's shame. And there's no need for that, because now you're not going to allow healing to happen. And what happens is that just kind of stacks on each other. And if you continue to stay in that headspace, I believe what end up happening is you kind of can repeat the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that thing you already was forgiven for, you're like, you may get to the headspace where, well, I can't, I'm so messed up, and you just do it again because you're like, oh, well, I can't forgive myself, and I just don't think I'm better than this, and you punish yourself that you end up doing that exact same thing. So you end up you're not making any progress in your relationship with that person, and you're possibly hurting them again.
And I think too, like, bouncing off of that is like the saying goes, misery loves company. And I think that if you're in those four walls with your spouse and you're always feeling hard on yourself or not feeling great about yourself, like, that misery loves company. So eventually you may rub off on your spouse. Like, they may enter that space of just feeling horrible, or like it's not a good look. So I think the thing is that you have to realize that you have to be comfortable in saying that you disappointed yourself, like realizing what you did was wrong, but knowing that that action does not define who you are. So, of course, we all have a natural reaction to what happens or like what we do, but the key is to know that, like, that doesn't define who I am. That doesn't mean that is who I am. So moving on from that sometimes sounds easier said than done, but it's a necessity.
I think at the end of the day, you also look at it like this. God has given the free gift of grace to us, and he shows his grace and renews his grace every single day. In the word, it talks about more so. Paul was talking about taking some thorn out of his side. So it's almost like that feeling of disappointment is that thorn in your side. And in the Bible, Paul's asking him, Lord, take this thorn out of me. And God told him, no, I'm not. And he told him that my grace is sufficient. So that free gift of his forgiveness and his grace that is given to you is sufficient enough to take care of everything. You are now contradicting God's word when you're not forgiving yourself, because you're telling him, nope, your grace is not sufficient enough for me to forgive myself and to move forward. But I'm gonna stay in this headspace of I'm horrible, I'm this bad person, and I'm not gonna forgive myself. So it's almost like, who do you believe, yourself in this matter, or do you believe God when he says, one, I've forgiven you, secondly, my grace is sufficient, and you don't have to no longer worry about this, and no need to, and condemnation is not needed.
That's good. And I think that you just have to realize that, like, things take time, and everybody learns at a different pace, and just knowing that it's going to take that person. It may take them a little while to forgive you. It may take you a little while to forgive yourself, but the ultimate goal is that you do forgive yourself. That's just, you can't stay stuck in that space for too long, because, it's just not healthy. And like Kadero said, you definitely need to allow the time and space to heal. So if you're still in unforgiveness, you're not giving yourself that time to heal.
So forgive yourself.
Yes.
That's all we
That's
got.
all I get.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
That's all we got.
We love you guys. What's your thoughts? Let us know what you think. We appreciate you watching this episode of Everyday with H&K.
Bye.
Peace.
In the Middle East, rain in Spain.